The Buffalo Bills at number 8.
Here we go, Riv.
Now, Riv,
Yo.
you lost Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Leonard Floyd, Micah Hyde, Mitch Morris, Tyrell Dodson, Trey White,
Gabe Davis walk.
Jordan Poyer.
It's a lot of players the Bills
Jordan
lost.
Poyer walked.
And they face one of the more difficult schedules in the NFL this
Including
year.
the Jets twice.
They face this year's number 1 schedule of defenses. So this offense that lost an elite receiver is now going up against elite defenses. What do you expect for the Bills?
I think I'm more excited about their defense. I think when you made the trade for Douglas last year, you kind of saw a little bit of a shift in energy on the defensive side of the ball with him, Teron Johnson. You had Poyer there. And then that whole linebacking crew that was young with Bernard Dotson last year, and Matt Milano was out, of course. You just had all of them had kind of a rejuvenated energy. You had guys like AJ making plays, and this defense being able to get stops, their corners being able to lock down. And I think for this year, Matt Milano coming back, Von Miller looks great in practice. I expect this defense to be pretty great. Definitely top 10. They've been that for some while under Sean McDermott. They've been a top 10 defense in the league, but I think it's going to be more realer than other years. I know, over the past couple of years, they've had a top 10 defense statistically, but at times you would see this defense get schemed up pretty easily against or, kind of get torched. I think this year it's going to be more legit. I think for Josh Allen, you have one of the 2 best quarterbacks in the world. You have one of the best playmakers in the world, one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the world. He doesn't need too much talent. I think you have Dalton Kincaid, who not broke out, but he was a rookie. He was amazing last year. You have Khalil Shakir, who's broke out last year. You still have Dawson Knox. You have guys like Keon Coleman, who looks great in practice. You have guys like Curtis Samuel. You're gonna have to do a lot of kind of what Mahomes did last year in terms of just sharing the sugar, dinking and dunking. Not too many big plays. And I think this offense was gearing towards the end of the year with Joe Brady. You're going to rely on the run game and James Cook. You're going to expect big things from James Cook, which I also expect the big things. But I think this roster, even without Stephon Diggs, I still think they have the defensive talent to be really, really good. And I think their running back core is going to be solid. Their offensive line is one of the best in the league. And then you have outside of Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league. It's just a relatively weak, unproven wide receiver core, but outside of that, I think they're pretty strong in almost every department. I think with how people feel about Josh Allen, that's why they're ranked so high.
I think this is going to be another Josh Allen backpacking show offensively. It's really tough because Josh Allen is 29 now, if I'm correct. Of course, big dude, he could take a bunch of hits, but he's been having to do this for a while in terms of carrying the load on offense. And of course, when you're a high caliber quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, that's your responsibility. But going into this season... 28. Okay, when's his birthday?
He turned 28 in May, actually.
Okay, just turned 28. Yeah. Gave him a year too much.
Jumping the gun here.
Should be a Bronco.
When you go... he should be a Bronco. When you go into this season and you look at this wide receiver room, like you mentioned, Riv, it is a lot of unproven, right? Curtis Samuel, I think we know what he is. He's been a solid wide receiver 3 type dude. You could do a lot of different things, whether line him up in the backfield and slot. You could do a lot of creative things with him. Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, you have hope for them, but there's not a bunch of certainty going into next season. I think Khalil Shakir, especially in the preseason, showed a couple of things in training camp. He's been doing well. Keon Coleman has been up and down. He played a ton in the preseason, actually, but they really like Mac Hollins, too, coming out of camp. They've been saying that he's someone that could get a decent amount of burn. And then you also have James Cook out of the backfield, who is, when he's on and he's not having his ball security issues, can be one of the more explosive backs in the NFL. They are saying he's having some ball security issues, though, at camp. And, of course, fumbling the ball is going to be a quick way to get off the field. But I think he's just too key of a part to this offense to let that go. I have the Bills at 8 here, and it almost felt like, damn, bro, here you go. Here you go, Buffalo. Here's number 8 for your top 10 team. Josh Allen, good defense, good head coach, an offense coordinator, that's fine. But that's kind of just the vibe I get from this team. It's been a lot of years that it hasn't always been Josh Allen's fault, especially look at the 13-second game against Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs a few years ago. But I look at that game against Cincinnati Bengals just 2 seasons ago where you're at home. It's a snow game. This should be Buffalo football. You kind of get dominated that entire game. This past season as well. It just feels like they always keep coming up short. And every offseason, I'm looking for ways at how Buffalo can improve their team, whether that's at the coach/coordinator position, whether that's on the field talent. And this season, I feel like they didn't do either of that. They lost a ton of pieces, some, over the edge, a bit declining, a bit older players. You get some youth in there. I get it. But how did you close the gap on the Kansas City Chiefs is the biggest question mark for the Bills every single season. And going into this season, they feel a bit further away than closer to them. So it's difficult for me, although they're at 8, Super Bowl caliber team, I get all of that, but I just don't know how anyone can convince me that this is the year Buffalo does it. They're up this high because the defense should be good again. Sean McDermott has shown if he's the head coach, they should produce a top 10 defense. And Josh Allen's the second best quarterback in the league, so him alone is going to get you probably 11 wins and a playoff victory. But I just don't see the gap closing between them and the Kansas City Chiefs.
We saw the Buffalo Bills defense really improve in that second half of the season. You mentioned it, Riv, when Rasul Douglas was brought on. But now you didn't have Matt Milano for that run. Now you get Matt Milano back, who, of course, is coming back from injury. We're going to have to see how he comes back and how he looks. But when he's on the field, we're talking about one of the best linebackers in football, especially when it comes to being in coverage. I look at this offense, and yes, of course, I do have my question marks about the wide receivers. But you know what? I'm not going to call Josh Allen Patrick Mahomes, but to me, he's the closest when it comes to elevating talent. I say that with the idea you don't need, when you have a Patrick Mahomes, a Josh Allen, you don't need this overwhelming. Of course, I'll throw Lamar in there. Although I'll say when it comes to playoff success, I've seen Josh Allen have a little bit more than Lamar, and I say a little bit. I'm being kind. Yes, I'll say Lamar can elevate, and with subpar to average to slightly above average weapons, we see them elevate. Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, I'm excited to see what Keon Coleman has in his rookie campaign. But having Dalton Kincaid there also, to me, this is going to be a run-heavy offense. You mentioned how in camp maybe they're not the happiest with James. However, you have Ray Davis there as a backup, God forbid, but we saw how efficient James Cook was as a rusher. His issue with me last season was his hands and not being able to catch the ball and consistently make grabs out of the backfield, or especially when he's called to run routes. We saw him drop a couple touchdowns. He is a great weapon to have. He just needs to lock up his his ball security. I fully believe that James Cook is going to be a breakout running back this year. Once again, he's going to be one of the better, more efficient running backs because this offensive line is so sound in front of Josh Allen and James. They're going to be a run-heavy offense with play-action pass and, of course, just trying to push the ball vertically. When you have Khalil Shakir, who's a fast kind of guy, you have a Swiss Army knife in a Curtis Samuel, you're going to have to work on not necessarily chunk plays, but again, maybe we see Josh Allen enter this quote-unquote game manager phase of his, where that's not necessarily a bad thing. We just saw the most dynamic, the most insane player in Patrick Mahomes learn it doesn't have to be a big play every time to play winning football. We saw that from the Bills in that second half of the season when they really started to win consistent football, started to play consistent football. When, again, Josh Allen didn't necessarily, he is playing hero ball, of course, when it comes to his legs, but you're not making these insane passes on a consistent basis, really trying to push the ball downfield. That's not going to be their offense this season, especially with the weapons that they have. I think we're going to see a more meticulous Josh Allen than what we've seen in years past, and again, that's still going to be another level to Josh Allen's game that he's going to get. But you mentioned it. This is a top 2 quarterback in the world. I do believe that. And when you have to adjust to your personnel around you, naturally that can elevate you. And I do believe that Josh Allen and this Bills offense can do that. Defensively, I don't have my worries about it. I hope for as a fan, Von Miller is healthy and plays a lot better than what he showed us last season. I just believe that the Buffalo Bills are too consistent as a team right now, especially with Josh Allen at the helm, to not be a top 10 team. This was my number 9 team on my top 10 rankings, so having them at 8, I have no issue with that. You have to respect what has not been broken for the last couple of years, that Josh Allen has been elite.
If there's one year the Bills are going to miss the playoffs, it's going to be this year. They face a ridiculously tough schedule. They face an elite schedule of offenses. They face an elite schedule of defenses. When you talk about managing a game, I agree. I think that Allen and Mahomes and the top-end quarterbacks take it a step further. It's not managing a game. They control the game.
Definitely.
With just what they're able to do, understanding situations. I think Stephon Diggs leaving isn't going to hurt the Bills' offense that much because last season, the Bills, in 12 personnel, so 2 tight end sets, they had a 60% success rate versus a 49% success rate when they only had 1 tight end on the field. they are going to want to get heavier with Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. And they weren't able to do so at the rate they wanted to because Dawson Knox was hurt last year when Kincaid started to find his groove. But Josh Allen, since Stephon Diggs has been in Buffalo, he has 246 dropbacks without Stephon Diggs. And his EPA is .22, which would have ranked second in the NFL. So Josh Allen has shown that without Stephon Diggs in the lineup, he is still an elite tier quarterback. But my reservation with this team comes in a lot of veterans leaving your defense being young. And I do like their defense with Rasul Tehran and Christian Benford. I think they're studs. That safety position is going to be tested. And I don't think, we just seen with the Bengals. The Bengals had some good corners. It was their safeties and the miscommunication on the back end that led to so many explosive plays being let up. I worry if some of that happens with Buffalo. I think if Von Miller returns back to somewhat of a good form, then they're going to have another really good pass rushing option. I am starting to question Joe Brady a little bit more and more and more.
Here we go.
Because I think Ken Dorsey didn't do a lot of bad things. You know, the offense didn't look too much different despite a lot of Bills fans thinking that it did. Play action was the Bills' bread and butter. And they had a 52% success rate with play action last year versus a 47% success rate without play action last year. But they averaged almost 3+ more yards per attempt on those plays. The Bills only used play action on 29% of early downs, which was 20th in the NFL. With Joe Brady, it was at 24%. With Ken Dorsey, it was at 32%. Ken Dorsey was pushing a lot of the right buttons. They just weren't scoring in dire situations, but even with Ken Dorsey, look at the success rates, EPAs, their offense was better. But with Joe Brady, they just happened to score a little bit more, and that's where you get into hypothetical versus real scoring. But the Bills this year, I even with the great team they have, I don't see 3 teams in the AFC East making the playoffs. And the Bills, by far, have the toughest road to get there. The Dolphins have an easier schedule than the Bills. The Jets have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. If the Jets stay healthy, they're better than Buffalo. If the Dolphins stay healthy, I don't think they're better than Buffalo. But if they have an easier path to getting to the playoffs, the record can be better. Buffalo is facing a lot of top teams. And this is an offense that Joe Brady still hasn't gotten tested. Sean McDermott, we know what he can do, but there are also moments that he shows us that he's not managing the game like we think he should, and the defense has lapses, like against the Denver Broncos. There are just a lot of things going against the Bills this year, and it feels very much like a rebuild year. There are teams and quarterbacks that can get away with being in a rebuild year and making the playoffs, like the Chiefs trading away Tyreek Hill. Mm-hmm. But with this tough of a division, I mean, the Bills aren't going up against the Raiders, Broncos, and Chargers. It's the Jets and the Dolphins. These are 2 of the better teams in the AFC. And I think, I know, but the Dolphins also beat the Bills last year. Oh, no, they didn't. No, it was 2 seasons ago. Yes. You're right. In Miami when it was hot.
Yes. If it's hot out, they might win.
But look.
But when it's fucking cold out, Tua sucks in the cold.
Well, they haven't won in the cold.
Riv,
it's so hot.
Riv, you are the Bills fan here.
Hey.
Ultimate optimist on their schedule. So you're gonna predict this schedule because it is a tough schedule.
Let's do it.
Week 1, Bills versus Cardinals.
Oh, at Arizona? Buffalo.
No, it's versus. Okay. When I say versus, it's
in Buffalo.
Home, it's away.
Give me Buffalo.
Okay, want to know.
At the Dolphins.
Hot September.
This can go both ways. I'll say split. So I'll say Miami takes this one.
1-1.
Versus the Jags.
Give me Buffalo.
2-1.
At the Ravens.
Ooh. Give me Baltimore.
2-2.
At the Texans.
Heartstrings.
This one's tough for me.
He said he's a fan of the Bills.
Give me Buffalo.
3-2.
At the Jets.
They'll split, so you can give Jets this one.
3-3.
Versus the Titans.
Give me Buffalo.
4-3.
At Seattle.
Give me Buffalo.
5-3.
Good game.
Versus the Dolphins.
If I say it fast, it's not because I think, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a tough game. Buffalo takes this one.
6-3.
At the Colts.
Another tough game.
Give me Buffalo.
Versus
7-3.
the Chiefs.
I think Kansas takes this one.
7-4.
Versus the Niners.
The Niners.
7-5.
At the Rams.
Ooh.
Tough stretch.
Fuck.
Need this one, to be honest.
You do. You're gonna be desperate back-to-back L's.
I've seen them lose a few back to back and just go crazy. This one is I'll say Buffalo. I don't feel good about saying Buffalo though.
All right, 8-5,
At the Lions.
Detroit,
8-6,
Versus the Patriots.
Buffalo.
9-6,
Versus the Jets.
I gave you out the first one, right? So Buffalo,
10-6,
At the Patriots.
Buffalo.
11-6.
That's 11-6. But this
It's a lot of
schedule is
50.
gruesome.
It's a lot of
It
50.
is.
Like Seattle could very
At
well be a
Seattle's
loss.
tough. At
Colts-
Indy's
Colts
tough.
could be a loss.
You picked the Bills against the Rams.
No, I didn't. Oh,
Oh,
yes,
you
I did. Yes,
picked-
I did. Yeah, that could be a loss.
Seahawks, Colts, Rams. You picked the Bills over the Texans.
Yes.
There's really not gimmies in there outside of New
Hey,
England.
if they get out this schedule though, whoo.
It'll be very
they'll be
impressive.
tested.
Yeah,
They'll be
we're here.
tested.
We're talking, but yeah, that's a tough ass schedule.
But with all these question marks we have about their team, and with the gauntlet of a schedule they have, it's gonna take a lot of things to go right for them.
That defense has to play amazing. The
Yeah.
offense has to be. They can't turn over the ball like they did last year. They can't turn over the ball in key situations.
It's one
Don't
of
go
those.
off sides on kicks.
Yeah,
They're-
don't listen.
the
that was crazy.
Yeah, facts. The blueprint has to be what the Chiefs did last year. Elite defense. You need your superstar quarterback in moments to be elite to bring you home. That needs to be the blueprint for the Buffalo
And that's
Bills.
a hard blueprint.
It's terribly
'Cause
difficult.
That Chiefs defense to me is a lot
It's
better
a lot
than this
better.
Bills defense. And Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks I've seen in my life. Patrick Mahomes, it's not even close. He's better.
Without L'Jarius Sneed, we're still talking same level defense.
They'll fall off.
They'll fall off a
Yeah.
bit, but last year, you know what I mean? Like,
Agreed.
They don't have a Chris Jones. Like Buffalo doesn't have a Chris Jones.
That's true.
But I do think Ed Oliver, Greg Russo, if Von Miller is just good. You don't even need him to be elite. He's just good. Those three is pretty fucking nasty.
If Von Miller's at 100% health, he's gonna be a dog.